Hi YouTube, it's your boy Kanji FPL and we are back with another YouTube video where we're going to be discussing my preseason watch list. These are going to be the players that I'm tracking and following throughout the preseason, going to be looking at their minutes played and effectiveness throughout the preseason so I can make my final FPL decisions on deadline day. Let's start by jumping right into last season's Premier League champions, Manchester City. Ilkay Gundogan has got to go down as one of Manchester City's clutchest players over the past 5 seasons. I'll never forget 2 years ago when Manchester City and Liverpool were going toe-to-toe to the final day, and Man City were playing Aston Villa. And surprisingly, Aston Villa were up 2-0. I honestly couldn't believe my eyes. I'm a Liverpool fan, by the way, so I have an inherent bias. But Gundogan was so clutch. He stepped up and got a brace on the final day and won Manchester City the title. And he's done this numerous times. Whenever it gets to the business end of the season, Gundogan steps up. It'll be tough for Man City to replace him. We cannot replace him, right, Pep? Well, I'm not sure. I feel like Gundogan's replacement already exists in the squad. I think Phil Foden can definitely step into his shoes. He can play on the left wing, right wing, and center mid. So does that mean that there's more minutes for Phil Foden? Maybe. That's something I have my eye on. But Manchester City went out into the transfer market and bought Kovacic. Kovacic is a much more passive player than Gundo. So if Pep replaces Gundo's spot with Kovacic, does that mean that there's more opportunities for a left winger like Grealish or a right winger like Mahrez or Foden? That's something I definitely have my eye on. Also, KDB got a hamstring injury towards the end of the season. That's why he was rotated in and out of the squad in the Premier League as Manchester City were fighting on all fronts. And if you recall, in the Champions League final, KDB was subbed off early. And news came out that he's going to miss the start of the season. So I'm going to be monitoring how many games is KDB going to miss. Does that mean that there's more minutes for someone like Phil Foden? That's just something I'm going to monitor. Next, we're going to have to jump into Manchester United. I know that they're going to sign someone like Onana to replace David De Gea, which is probably a good thing. Speaking of De Gea, honestly, I think Manchester United fans are so cruel to De Gea. He was their player of the season for 4 years out of the last 7 seasons, and it's like they're just ushering him out the door. I understand that he's not the best goalkeeper in the world, but he does deserve a little bit more respect than what he's getting at United. Anyway, Onana is definitely an upgrade. He's better with ball distribution, and he'll probably be a better leader for Manchester United defensively. But I'm not worried about them defensively now. I'm more concerned about their attack. If United don't sign a striker, they'll struggle to make top 4 in my opinion. There's just too many teams that are becoming better over the offseason, and it seems like if ManU don't make that striker signing, they could stagnate. Last season, Bruno Fernandes and Rashford were talismanic for their team. When people log into the FPL website, they'll look at Rashford's points of 205 versus Bruno's points of 176, and they'll obviously be like, hey, I'm definitely going to go for Rashford over Bruno. But I'm not sure if that's the right decision. Bruno had a higher XGI, so he was expected to have been involved in more opportunities, but it's because that United striker couldn't finish their dinner. It's because of that he underperformed from an FPL perspective. But that's something that I'm definitely interested in, and if they don't sign a striker, does that mean that Bruno is still going to be on penalties? Does that mean that Rashford will be as talismanic as he was last season? Next, Spurs. Are Spurs going to be a good team again? Man, they were absolutely trash last year. But it's incredible. Somehow they actually signed James Maddison. And so many teams were in for an attacking midfielder. Arsenal, Liverpool, ManCity, they were all looking for attacking mids. But somehow Spurs signed him. And that's just incredible. But to be honest, Spurs did have a great value buy of Maddison. 40 million for a player like him is incredible. Last season, he was 3rd in the Premier League for most goal contributions from a central and attacking midfielder. And 2 years ago, James Maddison was 1st for goal contributions from English attacking midfielders. So it just shows you how incredible James Maddison is. In fact, James Maddison has more chances created than all of Spurs midfielders combined last season. Over the past couple of seasons, James Maddison has been an XG overperformer. Last year, he had an XG of 8.5 and got 10 goals. 2 years ago, he had an XG of 6.5 and got 12 goals. And that's just what makes James Maddison so special. He was on all free kicks and corners, so he was really involved in the set pieces for Leicester. I'm not sure if that'll continue with Spurs. But even if he does that mean that there's less opportunities for Sonny? I mean, this could be Son's comeback season. We've seen this with Rashford. 2 years ago, Rashford almost fell off the planet. I think he got 60 FPL points, which is terrible. But last season, he was a world beater, almost essential in every single player's team in FPL. And I think something similar could happen to Son. He had a fall off last year, but he's just too good. Over the past couple of seasons, he's been really consistent in terms of overperforming his expected goals. Last year, even though it was his down year, he had 9.5 XG and still got 10 goals. The season before that, when he had more big chances, he had 17 XG and got 23 goals. So Sonny is incredible. He could be a great option, especially if Kane leaves. Does that mean that Son would be on penalties? Even if he lost free kicks and corners to Maddison, I still think the fact that Son is on pens could be a massive string to his bow in terms of getting more FPL points. So that's just something I'm going to monitor in preseason. It's a pity that Daniel Levy is now going to spend the money on a central attacking mid like James Maddison. That's exactly the type of player that Kane was crying out for the last couple seasons. It's just a pity the way Spurs are run, but let's see how that evolves over the preseason. Those are the two players that I'm monitoring. Next, we've got the team that I think is going to finish in second place next year and probably push ManCity till the last day this time around, and that's Arsenal. Arsenal did sign Declan Rice, and first of all, I'm so happy that he chose Arsenal because shout out to his competitive spirit. He could have just joined Manchester City and got the easy way out, but I think one title with Arsenal is worth 3 with Manchester City. And the fact that Declan Rice chose Arsenal over ManCity provides more parity to the league. The gap between ManCity and all the rest of the teams in the league has to get smaller and smaller in order for the league to be competitive. So I'm really happy about that. But the thing is, who's going to replace Xhaka now that he's gone? I've seen a lot of rumors that Havertz is actually going to be playing in midfield. And does that mean that if Havertz is in the midfield with Odegaard and Partey or Declan Rice behind them, does that mean that Odegaard will have to drop deeper to link the play? If Declan Rice replaces Xhaka in the squad, that could mean that Odegaard could stay higher up the pitch just like he was last season. So that will be something to monitor in preseason. There are rumors that Timber is going to be coming to Arsenal, and he's a RCB, CB, and a CDM. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits into the squad, but I don't think his influence in the squad is going to impact Gabriel's minutes at all. Gabriel is a left center back and left back. He's a left footer, so I think Arteta will always have a bias to play him there. He just works in terms of just having the passing angles for ball distribution, playing out from the back. So I'm really interested to see how Arsenal play in preseason. I think they're going to come out like a house on fire this year, but that's just something I want to see. Next, we're coming into my favorite team. This is a picture of me in Liverpool by Anfield near the Trent mural. That was one of my biggest dreams, and I'm hoping sometime to make a video about my trip to London. But from an FPL perspective, I want to monitor to see if Trent is still playing in that inverted midfield role or if Klopp is going to revert back to a 4-3-3 now that we've signed so many midfielders. I mean, we signed McAllister, Szoboszlai. I mean, Liverpool are definitely going to be playing better this season than they were last year. I think people should be scared of what Liverpool can do. Towards the end of last season, we noticed that Gakpo was getting a lot of minutes at the striker position, and I think he nailed that spot down away from Darwin. I know Firmino got a couple games here and there, and you know what, man? Firmino, he just gives me nostalgic vibes. He stepped up in every game towards the end of the season. He got a goal in his last home game. He got a goal in his last away game. He's been incredible for Liverpool, and so I was so happy for him. But I still do believe that Gakpo was the number one choice, but I still want to monitor that throughout the preseason. Also, on the left wing, is Diaz the first choice or Jota? I think Klopp has an inherent bias towards Luis Diaz, but I do think that Jota is a better finisher. So that's just something to keep in mind. Also, if there's a lot of rotation in that spot, maybe we could just avoid Liverpool's left winger altogether in FPL. So that's just something I'm thinking about. Also, Brentford. Are Brentford going to be a good team without Tony and without Raya? Tony has been their talismanic clinical striker up top. He's incredible. He pretty much got all the big chances for Brentford. And Mbeumo did chip in here and there. And whenever Tony was out, Mbeumo was going to be on penalties. And the fact that Mbeumo got moved from a striker to a midfielder, does that mean that he's an FPL options to start the season, especially with Brentford's easy fixture run? Potentially, but that's something I want to see. Also, Brentford's goalkeeper position is interesting. David Raya had a lot of transfer rumors, the fact that he wanted to leave the club. A lot of teams were looking for a goalkeeper. I think Chelsea wanted one, Spurs wanted one, United wanted one, but it seems like Spurs signed a keeper and United signed a keeper already. So is Raya still going to leave or is he going to stay? That's something I want to monitor. In fact, in my first draft right now, I actually have Flecken in my draft, which is the goalkeeper that Brentford bought. So that's something I'm monitoring for sure throughout preseason. And in my opinion, I still think Raya's going to leave, but we'll see how that plays out. I'm not sure if Brentford will be as good next season as they were last season, because without Tony, that could make a major impact on the squad in all areas. But that's something I want to monitor. Also, Chelsea cannot be as bad as they were last year. There's no way. They have way too much quality in that squad. Enzo Fernandez is incredible. They have so many different wingers that they can play. Chilwell and James really stand out to me. Those guys are probably one of the best wing backs in the league. And they also did sign in Kunku, who was Bundesliga's top goal scorer. So I want to see how they adapt through the preseason. As of right now, I don't think I'm going to start the season with anyone from Chelsea in my squad, but that's definitely going to be something I'm monitoring throughout the preseason and potentially in the first couple games. I know from game week 3 onwards, they have incredible fixtures, so they could be great value options to bring into your FPL team. Speaking of value options, there are some 4.0 players that we could put into our squad. 3 players were 4.0, they've come up from the championship, so these are all viable options. So throughout the preseason, I want to just see that they're getting enough minutes, and I'll decide who is going to be my 5th defender in my FPL team. And lastly, there could be a 4.0 goalkeeper for West Ham. The starting goalkeeper for West Ham is Fabianski. He got all the games in the league, and Areola got all the games in the Europa Conference League last season. But Fabianski is 38 years old, and regression has already started. So it'll be interesting to see if David Moyes actually plays Areola with a little bit more minutes this year. Maybe there's more of a rotation this year, or potentially Areola could get all the minutes. I mean, that's definitely going to happen over the next couple seasons, whether that's this year or next year. That's just something I want to monitor. That's it for now. There's over a month from now until the beginning of the Premier League season, and each one of those little micro decisions will change my FPL team. But I have been in the lab. I've been cooking up my first FPL draft, so be on the lookout for that video. If I provided some value to you today, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.